I never thought I'd be accused of pulling off the perfect crime in broad daylight, with dozens of onlookers gasping as a $200,000 bridge crumbled into my lake. Diane Walton, the Pine Ridge Estates HOA president, called it sabotage, her face twisted with rage as she emerged from the muddy water, her designer suit ruined, mascara streaking her cheeks. Was it wrong to grin as cameras captured her humiliation? Maybe. But after 3 months of her relentless harassment, threats, and attempts to steal my family's legacy, that moment of poetic justice felt better than any victory I'd ever known. I'm Nathan Hayes, a retired military engineer who, until 6 months ago, wanted nothing more than peace on my 5-acre lakeside property, a pristine haven of forest and shoreline left to me by my father. This wasn't just land. It was where I learned to fish, built my first treehouse, and planned to spend my retirement with a beer, watching the sun sink below the horizon. My grandfather bought this paradise in the 1950s, long before subdivisions or HOAs existed. After 22 years of military service, dodging bullets and red tape, I thought I'd earned a quiet life. I was wrong. Trouble started with Diane Walton, the HOA president, her smile as sharp as her heels. She knocked on my door one crisp morning, announcing the HOA's plan to build a footbridge across my property to connect the neighborhood to a public park. "It's a win for the community," she said, her eyes cold. "Just sign here." I refused. A bridge would wreck my shoreline and bring strangers tramping through my backyard. "This land's been untouched for decades," I told her. "My father protected it, and so will I." Her smile tightened. "Check your deed, Nathan. There's an easement. We have rights." She left a folder on my porch and strutted off, her heels clicking like a timer. Her confidence shook me. That night, I rummaged through my father's old metal box, the scent of aged paper filling my cabin as I pored over deeds and surveys, a whiskey at my side. My dad was meticulous, always saying good boundaries start with good records. I found a vague rite of passage clause from decades ago, but nothing about bridges or construction. It was murky legal ground. The next morning, an email about an emergency HOA meeting pinged my inbox, forwarded by my neighbor, Claire Mitchell. My name wasn't on the invite list. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived. The HOA had approved the Lakeview Bridge project, construction starting in 30 days. They weren't asking, they were telling. I called my old Army buddy, Paul Sullivan, now a real estate lawyer. "They're trying to build on my land without permission," I said, sending him the documents. Paul arrived the next day, legal pad in hand. Over coffee on my porch, he confirmed the easement was for utilities, not structures. "It's a stretch," he said. "But fighting an HOA is a war of attrition. They're betting you'll cave." He grinned. "Let's get creative." Claire, who worked at the county courthouse, joined us, revealing my property predated the HOA, giving me stronger rights. She had her own beef with Diane, who'd find her for everything from her mailbox shade to her lawn's height. We dug deeper. Paul found that the bridge's contractor, Crest Builders, had won every HOA contract for 3 years despite no bridge building experience. Their owner, Victor Klein, was tied to Diane's ex-husband, Richard Ellis, the city's building inspector. Claire uncovered inflated project costs, a $35,000 tennis court that should have been $20,000, a clubhouse renovation double the market rate. The bridge's $200,000 price tag was twice what similar projects cost. "Someone's skimming," Paul said. "Diane's got a money trail, and we'll find it." The HOA didn't wait. Surveyors showed up, staking my shoreline. "You're on private property," I told them. They flashed a document with Diane's signature. "HOA authorized it," the kid in charge mumbled. I sent them packing, but violation notices followed. Tall grass, unapproved lighting, visible trash cans. Fines piled up. I installed security cameras, catching a soil testing crew trespassing. "Leave, or it's trespassing," I said, recording. They left, grumbling about problem residents. Certified letters threatened lawsuits if I kept obstructing community progress. Paul had a theory. Diane's getting kickbacks from Crest. He pointed to a $15,000 consulting fee in the budget. We found Crest's safety violations had been quietly cleared by Richard Ellis. Then I stumbled on a bombshell. Richard's new wife, Laura, was a Crest investor. For Diane, this bridge wasn't just profit, it was personal, a jab at the man who left her. At the HOA's bridge meeting, Diane unveiled glossy renderings of a wooden bridge, promising higher property values and community pride. She glossed over the wetland destruction and foot traffic it would bring. I stood. How is this approved without my consent or proper easements? And why Crest, with no bridge experience? The room buzzed. Diane deflected, claiming legal rights and competitive bids. When I mentioned a 12% HOA fee hike, residents gasped. Diane pivoted to evening lighting features, but the damage was done. Retired engineer George Walsh, a former HOA committee member, approached me after. Diane sidelined me for questioning Crest's overpriced projects, he said. We teamed up, distributing flyers exposing the bridge's costs and shady deals. Diane retaliated, calling the flyers defamatory lies and storming my porch. You're making enemies, Nathan, she hissed. Days later, a crew began cutting down my century-old oak, claiming Diane's orders for hazardous conditions. I stopped them, cops were called, and the officer sided with me. Court order, no tree removal. But half the branches were gone. I fought back quietly, turning my shoreline into Hayes Lake Learning Center, a free nature classroom for kids. Claire helped craft lessons on fish and plants, and families flocked. Diane was furious, storming in with regulations in hand. This is a business, she shouted. It's free, I replied. Just neighbors enjoying my land. She found no violations and left, fuming. George reviewed Crest's bridge plans, spotting weak pilings and subpar concrete. This won't last 5 years, he warned. My cameras caught Diane taking an envelope from Victor Klein by my boathouse, likely a payoff. I shared it with Lisa Carter, a local reporter who'd attended the HOA meeting. Her first article questioned Crest's contracts and fast-tracked permits, stirring unrest. Diane doubled down, announcing an upgraded bridge design to sway opinion. Neighbors began shunning me, pressured by Diane's influence over local businesses. Lisa uncovered Diane's real motive. My land held valuable ceramic-grade clay, noted in my father's records. The bridge was a pretext to access it. As pressure mounted, I wavered, browsing rural listings one night by the lake. But memories of my dad teaching me to fish steeled my resolve. This was my heritage. Paul, George, and Claire devised a plan. Let Crest build their shoddy bridge and let it fail under inspection. Physics will do the work, George said, showing calculations of inevitable collapse under load tests. Construction raced ahead, cutting every corner uncured concrete, flimsy supports, ignored safety. George documented it all. Diane invited investors to admire the nearly finished bridge, unaware it was a disaster waiting to happen. At the ribbon cutting, Diane planned a grand ceremony with officials and a band. I RSVP'd, knowing the load test would expose everything. The morning was clear, the crowd buzzing. Diane, in a tailored suit, beamed with triumph. Victor looked nervous, flinching at every creak. Lisa was there, notepad ready, and we'd hidden cameras for proof. Diane's speech touted community unity, ignoring my land's violation. She led officials, Victor, and residents onto the bridge after cutting the ribbon. George whispered, "The cables are straining already. Too many people 30 when it could hold 15. Diane spotted me. "Nathan, join us on your new bridge," she taunted. I stepped forward but shouted, "Clear the bridge." "It's not safe," she scoffed, claiming inspections were done. A creak silenced the crowd. Diane pushed for an impromptu load test, ignoring protocol. Another crack split the air. "Get off now," I yelled, rushing to guide people. The bridge tilted, planks snapping, and the middle collapsed, plunging Diane, Victor, and others into the shallow, muddy lake. I waded in, pulling people to shore. No one was seriously hurt, but Diane emerged a mess, her purse sinking in the muck. The mayor, soaked and furious, demanded answers. Lisa snapped photos. Diane screamed, "Sabotage." But George listed violations: weak concrete, fake inspections. Paul showed footage of the collapse, proving physics, not sabotage, was to blame. The fallout was swift. Lisa's expose revealed Diane's kickbacks, Richard's forged permits, and the clay scheme. Diane resigned. Victor faced fraud charges, and Richard was suspended. George became HOA president, enforcing transparency. I donated part of my land to a conservation trust, ensuring no future construction. My learning center thrived, a true community hub. Neighbors apologized, admitting they'd been swayed by Diane's promises. At sunset, Lisa visited, noting Diane could have negotiated fairly for lake access. Shortcuts always backfire, I said, watching kids learn about frogs with Claire. This land wasn't about money, it was about memories, freedom, and standing firm. Diane's bridge was gone. Her ambitions sank in the mud.